Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Hello, everyone. It's such a joy to be here again with you. And of course, welcome to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. And as you heard, we're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. So we thank all of our listeners and, of course, United Public Radio Network and everybody associated with it. So today I'm really excited because we're going to breach a topic that I think all of us are going to be very interested in, if not already are. So let me start by asking you this. Have you ever stood outside and felt a sudden, unmistakable tug at your soul, a sense that the land beneath your feet was alive and trying to tell you something, but you didn't quite have the vocabulary to answer or knew exactly what the message was? Well, today we're joined by someone who is going to help us find these words and understand them. Elyse Welles is an earth priestess, a teacher of the Faery Tradition, which I love that whole genre, and the author of a powerful book, Sacred Wilds, an invitation to connect with the spirits of the land. Isn't that wonderful? So whether you live in a deep forest or a bustling city, it doesn't matter, because Elise's work is it's about the heeding of the call of the sacred wild. That's how I like to put it. Moving past nature as just a backdrop for learning to build real reciprocal relationships with the spirits of the land. So, like sometimes when I'm walking my dog, I'll just touch trees and try to connect with the earth that way. Things like that. So today we're going to take a deep dive into her book to learn how to become earth intuitives and reclaim our place in the natural world. Elyse, it's such an honor to have you here, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. So from time to time, you'll hear me stop and say hello. We get folks that pop in the chat, and that's a reminder for anyone where we're streaming on all social media platforms. Please be sure and pop in the chat. We would love your questions and comments. And of course, dear Heidi, such a great friend, my star sister, and a great friend to the network. Yes, and I knew this would get you because you're such a nature person, Heidi. You're always in nature when you can be, and that's such a special gift. So, Elyse, let's get started. In your book, we're going to talk about that, but I want to jump into like your background some and how you got started in this, the idea for your book. I know you said it came from land spirits themselves, from a fox that appeared out of nowhere. So, if you could take a minute or two and just kind of give us, oh, there's, she's sending you much love. Um, so if you could give us some of your background and the inspiration for your book, that would be brilliant.
Absolutely. So I was blessed to be raised multiculturally. So my dad is Greek Egyptian, my mom is American, and we also were expats growing up. So throughout my life, I've lived in very different landscapes. I was born in Pennsylvania, very wooded, very hilly. Then my dad's from Greece, so we would spend a good part of the year in Greece every year, right at the seaside, very hot in the summers. And then we also, at different points, I lived in the Middle East. I've lived in the UK. And the past 5 years, I was living full time in Greece. So throughout my life, I've had to figure out how to ground myself. I wouldn't have always used that word, but I needed to find a way to center and calm and feel at home where I was. And I began that work with trees and grass and water and thinking of, okay, if I can see the sea in Greece, I know I'm in Greece. And I will go to that sea when I first arrive off the airplane and ground myself there. And these are things I did intuitively as a young child, trying to make sense of living in so many different places and traveling so much. And when I got older, I found witchcraft, and on my own, I was reading about it. Silver Ravenwolf is a classic author. She's who I found in my library, and I began there. And then as I went into college, I met a friend of mine who was training with the eclectic Faery tradition of witchcraft. And so I met who would become my high priestess, and I studied with her. And then during the pandemic, I was realizing witchcraft is fantastic and I love it, but it didn't have a language for what I was doing, talking to these trees, talking to the grass, talking to the sea, and hearing it answer me back. And when I say hearing it, it's never this like audible, a conversation outside of yourself, but it's a feeling of deep acceptance. It's the feeling we get when if anyone's a hiker and you make it to that summit, you make it to that point, that feeling of arrival that the land meets us with. It's almost a pride, a quiet pride that the land has in us choosing to embark on that quest, on that hike, on that walk. And that is a bit of what I'm explaining here. So if you've had that experience, another similar one is if you like snow. I know some people don't, but think about as a child back before snow was a problem. I know for adults, they seem to see it as a problem, but we wake up and we see the snow and we're like, oh, it's the first snow of the year. That feeling of fulfillment that nature offers us sometimes is fleeting, but we can deepen that and deepen that with our work with the land. So in 2020, I started doing more ritual outside. I lived in a tiny apartment in Baltimore at the time. So I needed to go outside into public places to be able to access nature. So I was going to parks, I was going to cemeteries, and connecting deeply with the land. And my magic got less and less, for those familiar with witchcraft, it can be kind of ceremonial. There's structure to the ritual that's sort of rote. And I stopped doing that. A lot of that started to fall away, and I'm talking more and more with the land. And during the pandemic, I, like many of us, I had more time. And so I was spending more time with my spiritual path, and I was getting a deeper and deeper call to work directly with nature. And I started realizing that the job I was in as a school teacher was not going to support this. And so I did this ritual. I actually went to my parents' house. So I went to the trees in Pennsylvania that raised me. And I went to them, put my hands down on the ground, my knees down on the ground, just all fours down to the earth. And I said, what do I do? How do I honor this call to work more deeply with you? And for the first time in my life, it's happened one other time ever, I heard like a whisper. This is the one or two times in my life I've heard this whisper say, move to Greece. And so I took a moment, collected myself, went back inside. And once I spoke to my fiance about it, spoke to my parents, told everybody, I said, I'm moving to Greece after this pandemic. I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know what that's going to mean, but that's what I'm called to do. And so when I arrived in Greece 18 months later, it's hard work moving cross countries officially, and had to figure out my fiance's ability to move to a country he's not a citizen of. And so we did. We figured it all out. We were guided every step of the way by the land, I believe, in making this happen. And once I got there, I started getting more directives to travel to sacred places and understand with the land, go to that oracle site. I work a lot at Delphi. That's the main place I work in now in Greece. What does the land have to say there? What has it had to say? And I realized that I was being called back to essentially the great tradition of the oracles, like the Pythia at Delphi. There were oracles all over, and they spoke to the land. They were the voice of the land to the people. And so, in a nutshell, that is what this work is. And this book, Sacred Wild, is your invitation to begin that work, because it simply does begin with going outside with eyes open and saying, what do you have to say and share with me?
Wow, that's a beautiful story. So you're still in Greece, obviously.
Well, for the holidays, I'm actually in the US with family.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I'm in PA. So, and I appreciate the nature around me and the mountains. It's truly magnificent. And you do get a chance to ground yourself with that, and for folks that live in the cities, like you said before, they have to go to parks and places like that to really appreciate it. So, yeah, I'm grateful every day. Thank you, Heidi. She said, love that. And I really love that you said you returned to the trees that raised you goosebumps. That was beautiful. I agree, Heidi, with you wholeheartedly. So you mentioned a fox that you had an encounter with. What was that like?
So about 3 years into my living in Greece, I was up near Delphi actually, at my parents' house, and I got there first. I was with my own car. I got to their house early, and I was with my brother actually, who I'm with right now this weekend. So that's kind of full circle in its own way as well. And we got to the house early. I got out of the car, and I had never before this moment ever seen a fox in Greece. I knew we had them, but I had never seen one. And a fox comes out of the brush. We have these beautiful pine trees. We call them pevka in Greece, and they're a protected species of pine because the Athena owls live in them. Those adorable little owls we picture Athena with. And that's what we're looking at, is this vibrant, similar to a white pine for those who know their pines, tall forest of these. And this fox just comes right out of it and gets about 6 feet away from me and is staring me right in the eyes. And for those who don't know, there is no rabies in Europe, definitely not in Greece. So there was none of that fear in my mind that we might have here in North America. So I knew there was nothing wrong with the fox. It looked perfectly healthy. And I'm staring at it, taking this in, and it's locking eyes with me. And I get this overwhelming feeling, a message from the land that they sent this fox as an emissary to tell me, you are getting a message tonight. Be ready. So I go in the house. I'm spending the weekend with my family. So I shower, unpack my stuff, and I go out on my balcony right outside of my bedroom. And I'm looking out towards these pines, and I'm brushing my hair. And you know, when you brush your hair, you have little bits of hair left. I take that hair off the brush because our hair is our most sacred piece of us. If we ever are in a pinch and we want to leave an offering somewhere sacred, a strand of hair is the move, because that is the most pure essence of you, especially if you have any length to your hair. That hair's been with you for quite a long time. It's experienced what you've experienced. It remembers that. So it's such a gift to release this to the land. So I stand on my balcony and I say, I'm ready for this message. And I let this hair go. And as I'm watching the hair drift, it drifts right into the forest line. And I get this very clear channeled, I think people talk about getting a download, and sometimes it's fleeting. It's one word. This was like, get a pen. It was intense.
Wow.
And I got the title. I got chapter titles, and I started getting the introduction. It was that fast. I had to literally go inside. I was thankfully in my bedroom where I had my laptop. I grabbed my laptop and I'm typing this on a balcony. I'm like worried I'm going to drop my laptop over the edge because I'm like teetering it on the edge to get this all down. And they set me on this path. And then they even gave me at the end of this download, like, you're going to do this, 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 and this with other books. So I'm in the process of writing the sequels, if you will, to this right now.
Wow, that's such a blessing. I want to say hello to Adam. Hi, dear. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wow, that's a lot to take in. Okay, before we get in, no, it's great. It's a very moving. You kind of get chills listening to that. So before we delve into your book, I wanted to talk to you about the witchcraft part of it, because for personal reasons too, and I think many of our listeners are curious about these things as well. I was raised Roman Catholic, and anything to do with the witchcraft was always taboo. We were always told that it was the devil's work, and in the Bible, quotes read to us, and the drill. And like my whole life, I've always had a very close connection to it, but I never really got involved in it other than reading about it because of that fear that it was somehow connected to the dark arts. And we do hear about some witches that choose that path. So what do you have to say to that? And you're still a high priestess, correct? Practicing. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
So what's interesting is, Orthodoxy was the religion I was raised with, Greek Orthodoxy. Catholicism, Orthodoxy, and even Judaism share a lot of the same roots of practice that we would call ritualistic. We've got the incense, we've got the candles. The Orthodox and the Catholics, we have the images of the God. It's beautiful. We have Mother Mary a lot in Orthodoxy as well. And it's actually funny to me when I hear that Catholics were raised with this negative view of witchcraft, because so much of what witchcraft is now is rooted in the pagan practices that churches in the beginning just kept doing.
Yeah.
Incense was used in the temples. Why not
Yeah.
also use it in the church? So it's really all there. And actually, there's a famous witchcraft author. This is the foundational text in a lot of ways. Drawing Down the Moon by Margot Adler. It was written in the 70s, and she was an NPR reporter. So she was a very in the middle of things woman.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she said that 33% of witches she meets in polls and interviews come from Catholicism, Orthodoxy, or Judaism because it's not a strong leap. It's very similar
Right.
work, especially saints, very similar to how we view deities. So I think witchcraft gets, there's a political reason why it's had a bad rap in the past. The Roman Catholic Church wants its power, all these things in the 1600s,
Absolutely.
1400s. That's really where it comes from. And I think if we instead look at what witchcraft is, it's an earth-based religion.
Mhm.
Earth-based
Mhm.
goddess religion is often tacked into that as well. And at its core, what it means to be a witch is means to practice magic. And magic, traditionally, we define it with doing actions to manipulate change in accordance with one's will. So that word manipulate trips people up big time. It sounds sneaky. It sounds, you know, but what it means is you are acting in your life. You're not
Right.
reacting anymore. You're choosing to make actions. Because anytime we send a work email, for example, we have to change the tone, right? We have to be a little different than I might
Absolutely.
be just texting you to see what's up on your Friday night. So it's that idea, we're not manipulating from a negative place, we're enacting change. So witchcraft is something that has risen up always in the margins. It was something that was the last ditch effort of a person who's about to lose the love of their life to illness. You're going to go to the herbalist out in the far woods who everyone says speaks in riddles. Why not? Because you're about to lose the love of your life. You're going to go out to her and see what's going on. And then you're going to learn the power that's there. And that's what witchcraft was in the past. Now we're in an
Mm.
era where it's starting to come to light. And I
Yeah.
always say what brought me to it, really, what really made sense to me, because I was an atheist when I began practicing witchcraft. I actually didn't believe in any deities. I thought it
Mm.
didn't track. Like I was really much more focused on the animism, the idea that nature has spirit.
Mm.
But what witchcraft is at its foundations, there's one founding belief, not just in my tradition of witchcraft, but even in true Wicca, this is a belief. And we are not Wiccan, but perfect love and perfect trust is the goal of everything we do. So, perfect, I always like to go back. This is very like my big fat Greek wedding, but it's true. Greeks, we are really like this. In Greek, the word perfect, what it actually means is telia, which means complete, whole
Mm.
unto itself. We've perverted the word perfect to mean flawless, this
Exactly.
unattainable thing that is instead just pressure and judgment
Yeah.
and comparison. But if we remind ourselves that it comes from what the real meaning of that word is, complete, that perfect love is a piece of cake. It's natural. It's what you feel when you look at your cat while she, cleans herself in the window, or it's complete love. You don't have to question its reality. And so that's what witchcraft embeds in us, is a view of the world around us with complete love. And then when that love fails, leaning on complete trust. And when that trust fails, leaning on the complete love. And in that way, we do build love and trust with ourselves first, with nature, and then with the right people.
Wow. That was so beautifully said. You mentioned animism, and that was going to be my next question to you. In your book, you say it's the core of like working with with the spirits of a place, including land spirits. It's a belief that creatures great and small, plants, inanimate objects, things like that, even thunderstorms, hurricanes, wildfires, all have a soul to themselves. Can you kind of walk us through that?
So the word soul, again, we have an interesting Greek word, because I would say they are enspirited. That's how I always think of it, enspirited. A stone, think about crystals. We're not just picking up an inanimate. No, this is rose quartz. She helps me with self love. This is
Mm,
jade. It helps me with luck and abundance. We believe that. We know that jade is different than rose quartz.
mm,
Um, that extends to basalt, granite. limestone. You know, where we live, that matters. That stone resonance does affect us. And then I extend that to animals. And again, I think most people do. Like we all look at our dogs and cats, and you know, we might not, I do, but some people might not look at a reptile or a mouse or a spider that way, but we can extend it to our cats and dogs and family pets. So I think we can imagine how that extrapolates. And then, yeah, I believe weather has its energy that we can connect to. But I don't
Mhm.
always use the word soul, because a soul it is something, it has a different word, a different connotation to people, I think. You know, it implies reasoning or critical thinking or free
Mm,
will in a way
mm,
that I don't think applies to land spirits. But if we look at the real Greek root of soul, psyche, psyche, they do have a psyche. They do have what psyche meant in Greek, which was spirit. So,
mm,
you know, the rose quartz, I don't think has a soul. I'm looking at my rose quartz tower over there. I don't think she has a soul in the sense that if something happens to this rose quartz, she might go to a heaven or a hell or a reincarnation, but it has a spirit. And that spirit is connected to the spirit of all rose quartz. And we
mm.
can say the same for our rivers. You know, I live right, when I'm in the US, I stay right near the Susquehanna River. The Susquehanna River travels all the way up into New York, and she has a strong resonance. I write about her a lot in the book. She has such a strong resonance that it affects her whole watershed, but she's also
Yeah.
connected to all water. The rain that
Mhm.
falls into her is connected to all water. As she flows into the Chesapeake and out into the Atlantic, she is all water. So we can always recognize these layers of spirit that complicate it if we see it as a soul. So
Mm.
I see humans have souls. Maybe some animals have souls in the same way humans do. But trees and stones and water, I think, are a little bit different than us in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think animals for sure. Like I have a dog and I've had dogs my whole life and I fully believe that they're engaged with souls. And yeah, things like trees and crystals could have this life force, tornadoes that, you know, it's all about energy, right? And the life force. How do you deal with the challenge of, because like for me, I struggle with eating meat. And because I respect all living things. So throughout my life, I've tried becoming a vegetarian, never able to do it right, made myself sick by not getting enough protein and stuff. But I eat less and less and less meat. And I think a lot of us that respect and love nature and animals feel this sense of guilt when we're eating meat. And I know I was a big fan of and still am Keo Gibran, read all of his books. He's an Arabic poet, and he said that before he eats meat, and this kind of stuck with me, he always says a prayer of thanks and gratitude before. And that kind of resonated with me. And I do that too. I always think of the animal that sacrificed its life and even plants, right, Elise? Plants are living like I talk to my plants every day, practically. And they have a life force as well. How do you struggle with that whole thing? Do you eat meat? Do you eat plants? You have to eat plants, right?
Oh
To
yeah,
be
no,
alive.
I've yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. And I think that's again maybe where the soul word can help people here, because I believe that plants have these spirits, but I don't think it's the same thing to take a life of a plant as it is to take the life of a person and as it is
Mhm.
to take the life of an animal. So I do eat some meat. I eat chicken and I eat turkey and I eat sometimes pork. Sorry, not beef, not pork, beef. But I gave
Yeah.
up pork when I was in 10th grade
Yeah.
because first we watched Food Inc. If anyone was in school when
Yeah.
Food Inc. came out, you know how horrific that was to be jarred with that cinematic
Yeah.
viewing pleasure.
Nightmare.
Oh
Nightmare.
my gosh, it caused so many eating disorders in people, like,
It did.
such a problematic documentary, but that I did start looking more into pigs, and I started meeting them. I went to a pig farm and actually met
Oh,
pigs. It
good
really
lord.
affected me, and I have not eaten pigs since, because to
Yeah.
me, we take so much from pigs. Not only is their conditions in slaughterhouses usually much worse than cows or chickens, but they also have given us insulin. They give us heart valves. They've given us almost all of our
They're
reliable
very
medical
human-like.
research.
They're very
They're
human-like in biology too. You can live with a pig heart like a transplanted pig. You're spot on with that.
so, but I have some allergies. So I'm allergic to dairy and I'm allergic to soy. So
Oh,
there
good
was
lord.
no, yep. So I had to grapple with this question earlier on in my life than I think a lot of spiritual people. And I think it's been in massive aid to the work I do because
Yeah,
I've had to get comfortable with the second half of what my book title is: Sacred, Wild. Nature is wild. We
yeah,
are of nature. We're animals, we're mammals at the end of the day.
absolutely.
So we have to get comfortable with seeing ourselves not separate from nature, but part of it. And that means we are destroyers as much as we're creators. Now, I think
Exactly.
humans have been destroying a lot worse than their equal part there. But when it comes to the act of eating meat, I think that is just natural for the mammalian
Right.
body.
It is.
And it is a piece we need to make with it. And so this is where I think of, I apply this to the earth intuition practice that I teach throughout this book and in my classes. And it's the core of my work is to impart this wisdom on people. We have to have deep intentionality in our lives. And so many things about the modern society actually drive us away from intentionality. Marketing is designed to keep us from being intentional in our decisions. It's all quick, quick,
Mhm.
quick, act now, don't miss it. It's now the sale's already gone. You better act now to get it at this at least somewhat cheaper price. They crazy make us into making the quickest possible decision, which is
Yeah,
it's a negotiation tactic for hostages because it's so manipulative.
right.
But that's how we're supposed to live our lives in the grand scheme of Western society. So we have to take that back. We have got to slow ourselves down and have intention. So, yes, go buy the chicken, but maybe look for a co op that you can get your meat from, where you can even go visit the birds and see them living their best lives before something happens to them. See the way that the cows go through it. Um, that helped me a lot. So now I drive every twice a year, we go and get an eighth of a cow. And the other thing we're working on is finding a chicken supplier that's regular. But I have a few friends who raise chickens. So I do my best to get chickens that way. And then when I can't, I just see what I can get in the grocery store because I don't always
Mm,
trust those labels, but I do try to get the,
I mean, they're
yeah. But you
gosh,
can
that
find
was so
online these lovely co-ops.
yeah, I loved every minute of what you just said. And you're right. We're designed to eat meat. That's how our brains evolved by eating protein, and we became what we are today. So, but I don't know if I could do what you do. I give you a lot of gratitude for that to go see the cows or the birds before. That would shut me down. I couldn't see something that was going to end up dead soon and on the market for like I just like to say a prayer of gratitude and I'm good to go. I can't. Yeah, but it's a struggle because for those of us that appreciate nature and connect with nature in that way, like every time I eat meat, I like always think of that. I always think of the animal that sacrificed its life so that we may live. Like, and I think if you meet it with gratitude, that's good. Now I want to get to Heidi's comment. I love the way she phrased this. She said, I walked the witchy line very carefully, but the more I looked into practice and belief, it felt natural to me with nature and herbs. It resonates deeply in my soul. And I think that's a big statement for a lot of us. And the whole witch thing, it does resonate with us. And it's funny because I had a podcast yesterday and we were talking about the spirituality of man and how we're in the midst of this like global awakening. And I think a lot of us that are experiencing this are feeling what Heidi just expressed. We want to go with what resonates deeply. You use the word intention, and I love that because you're 100% spot on. So much of what we do is not intentional. It's just quick dopamine hit, and that's how society is right now. So if you can do things with intention, whatever it is, it's a game changer. And I absolutely love that you said that. Thank you for that.
And it's that slowing down too, because it stacks the ways we can help the earth by just doing a little bit less. Like a lot of times it's just don't do it. Like it's not more work, it's less work. It's cheaper. It's more cost effective. I
Yeah.
think that's been part of the Western capitalist scam is to tell us actually you can't afford to be green. It's so much more expensive. It's so much
Oh,
but in
God,
reality
they
the
just
greenest thing,
intentionally do that. That's
yeah, and
intentional.
that's exactly. It's not true. The greenest thing you can do is shop secondhand. Shop not at all. Do homemade gifts. Those are green actions.
Yeah, yeah. Heidi, I'm not sure what question you're referring to. She asked the energy or frequency. So if you could pop that in the chat, I'm sure Elyse would be more than happy to answer that for you. So yeah, I do resonate with everything you just talked about. I think we need to be a lot more mindful of doing those things that are earth kinder. Let's put it that way, because there's like over 8 billion of us on this planet. And if you see other countries, their rivers are packed with garbage, their oceans are filled. And I'm like, gosh, what gratitude we should have. I know Greece is a gorgeous place you're living in. It's absolutely beautiful, the nature there. I could see why you wanted to go there.
Well, and it's beautiful because my ancestors, going back a few thousand years in Greece, were Melisai. They were bee priestesses, and they were
Wow.
Maenads, which were dedicates of Dionysios and Pan, who were the gods of the sacred wild.
Yeah.
So I really believe it was my lineage calling me home, and it's been so healing to the main focus of all my work is to get people to think more about the environment and what they do,
Mhm. Mhm.
but not just from a sterile scientific, I want to re-enchant people with the world, to remind them that nature
Oh,
is
I love
here.
that.
It's always going to be here for us if we accept it. Because even if we mess things up as a species, nature will still be here. Nature will figure it out. So
Yeah.
we should take comfort in nature. And it gives you so much peace to work with land because land is so old, it's so rich, and
Oh, yeah.
it's witnessed everything. So think
Yeah.
about it's crone energy on steroids because when we
Yeah.
talk about, like when you're 6, you're 7, the problems you had then are kind of nothing usually compared to what we have as adults. But when you're
Right.
6 or 7, they feel massive. They feel massive. And you need to go
Absolutely.
to someone older or wiser to get comfort. We hit an age as humans where even even if there's someone older around, maybe they're not wiser, or maybe there's someone around who you trust, but not necessarily on this one subject.
Mhm.
The land is that elder, is the eldest. It's everything. So it will always hold that for you. You're never too much for the land. You're never too sad. You're never unloading too much on the earth. It
Mm.
it can transmute all of that. It alchemizes all of that right back down to neutral grounding and life. So it's our greatest ally in that.
Gosh, Elise, you're giving me goosebumps through this whole thing so far. You have such an eloquent way of expressing it too. Heidi said, "Oh, when we were talking about plants, she said they definitely have a frequency." I guess she was asking, "Do you think it's an energy or a frequency or both, like in plants?"
Good question. So frequency is often used this is a semantics for depending which academic person you're talking to. So energy versus frequency. Frequency is used by new age communities more than witchy communities. We tend to talk about energy.
Mm.
But the way I see frequency or vibration is it's a resonance at which a certain spirit exists. So all plants have energy. The resonance or frequency or vibration of mugwort is going to be the same with every mugwort you meet. They all are on the same resonance. They all have the
Mhm.
same shared energy. But the mugwort plant in your yard that you sit with and you've harvested from for this or that knows you as well. So that mugwort knows you in a way that all mugwort doesn't. But that mugwort is still mugwort. You couldn't train it to be mint, you know. So that's how I see energies and frequencies. And
Yeah,
then
that makes a
people
lot of
exist
sense.
differently on frequency.
Absolutely. And I see that crossing over to crystals too. You own a crystal, it kind of takes on your energy and but like you said before with rose quartz, it connects to like the goddess of rose quartz, like globally, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, she
yeah,
said
or the
she said, "Thank you."
archetype or
Right, 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 right. Gosh, love that. She said,
and
"Thank you." That
actually,
does make sense.
you are so welcome, Heidi. And I'm sure other people had that question. So that's I love questions because it always helps everybody listening and
Oh,
watching.
good, good, good.
Um, that makes me think too about another way I speak about land spirit
Mhm.
connection is about frequency. You know, if we're you and I talking, we're on the same frequency. It's easy. I
Absolutely.
don't have to meditate and connect to you. You're right here. We're talking. We're on the same physical plane.
Mhm.
It's easy. If I want to talk to, my cat, it's also pretty easy. I can see her eye to eye, have a
Right.
conversation. Then if I wanna talk to my tree outside, that's a little bit easier too because I can see the tree. It's harder than talking to you by a long shot, but it's easy in a way because I can see the tree and I know I'm directing the words at the tree. It's just maybe not
Mhm.
communicating back right away. And then we have very abstract communications with spirits, deities, spirit guides, ancestors. These are all, and I include deities in this, these are all spirits associated with humanity. So, spirit
Mhm.
guides, they're here to guide us, or over there to guide us here. Um,
Right.
Angels or guardians, I keep in that same category. And then when I think about deities, they're here to help humans. They're very human adjacent. They're more concerned with us than other spirits. So they can be even they're a little bit easier to tune into than the land under our feet. So land spirits, they're like a radio station that you have to be, you have to keep adjusting the antenna and they're a little harder to tune to.
In your book, you also cover elementals, and I've always been very fascinated with them. You say that they're closely connected to land spirits, but they're not the same. So there's these 5 elements that make up, and I know witchcraft relies heavily on earth, air, fire, water, in some traditions, even spirit. So how are elementals, are they all associated with these earth elements, or are they is that like the earth, air, fire, water, separate elements?
So elementals are often given names that come from alchemy. So, like if in witchcraft, for example, people will call in salamanders for fire, gnomes
Mm,
for earth, sylphs for air, undines for water. And these were alchemical associations given by an alchemist in the 1400s named Paracelsus
mhm,
over in Switzerland. So they are more folkloric than literal. But in witchcraft, when we call them in, we're supposed to literally feel them. We're supposed to literally invite the gnomes, and the gnomes come. And that always threw me. I was like, I don't feel gnomes. I don't know what they're talking about. These gnomes. There's nothing here. But I do feel this gentle current of earth. So as I was in my practice longer and longer, I felt more confident to say, sorry, I don't feel any gnomes, but I do feel the earth and I do feel the water and I do feel. And so I've learned that the elements, the elementals are the spirits of those elements, but they're transient. They're not like land spirits because land spirits are where they are. They are the land itself. So I can't
mm.
connect to your land spirits there from here because I've never been to your land and I'm not on it. It's whereas I could, potentially I could do a tarot reading to help you connect to a deity right now. It wouldn't, it'd be totally possible. But because land spirits are spirits of place, that's their only, spirit work doesn't have a lot of hard and fast no's, but I really do believe that you have to be on the land of that land spirit to connect with it.
Ah,
Unless
that
you've
makes so much
connected
sense.
significant like my childhood home, sometimes I can sort of astral project there and, engage
Mm.
with the land, but that's complicated stuff, and long story short, really, you should be on the land to meet these land
Yeah,
spirits.
that makes the most
Um,
sense.
but elementals are transient. So a wind spirit, I love wind spirits particularly because they can travel, and I love
Mm.
doing this. My coven is spread out north through New York, all the way through Indiana. I have coven members in London. I have a crazy spread out coven. So when the winds, I love noticing like, nor'easter coming through, whatever, and being like, oh, that means it's going to come past Indiana and that means it's going to send to my friends.
Yeah,
So I can
yeah.
send with those wind spirits, send a
Yeah,
message
yeah,
to my
yeah.
friends. So
That
it's
makes
it's
a lot of
very
sense.
special.
Yeah, I could see that because it kinda touches all the paths that it's taking to get to you, and like connecting you guys, right? In a way.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
And
I love that.
so they're both very important, and then they're both spirits of the land. But yeah, I think of elementals as just a little more flexible.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, how can we use earth and animal elements to protect ourselves? In your book, you talk about this, I guess, in the last chapter. I'm not exactly sure, but you say you also work with plant spirits to create protective boundaries, cleanse your space. And I have to say, I love your book. I love it. I underline a whole
Thank
bunch of
you.
stuff in there. Do you have a copy you could show? I'm sure folks would like to see it. I love the cover. Your editor there sent me a cover of that, and I'm like, I love crows, so I was able to immediately connect to that. It's really beautiful, and the book is highly recommend you guys. And we'll have the link, of course. Oh, I forgot to put your banner up. Shame on me. So there's Elise's website too, Seeking New Menia. Menia?
Yeah, numina. Numina
Numina.
means sacred places.
Okay, so we also have your link in the description of the YouTube video on all social media platforms. So yeah, I highly recommend that. Yeah, I love the cover too. It's one of the nicest that I've seen. Really nice. Yeah, go
Thank
ahead.
you. I agree completely. When they sent
Yeah.
me this cover, I just jumped for joy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
amazing. Because crows are
Yeah.
very important to me, and in Greece, we have poppies that grow everywhere on these ancient sites. So it felt they definitely didn't know, this cover designer, but it felt spirit-led that they would put
Yes,
poppies.
absolutely. Hi, Francis. So nice to have you here with us today. Yeah, if you guys are in the chat and just being quiet, don't be shy. Pop in any questions that you might have. We would love to get them answered. So, I asked you about what you do to protect yourself, and what can we do, other than like, because what I do is I'll ground myself with my chakra, my grounding chakra, and that's like my go-to thing. So if I'm somewhere I don't feel comfortable, I have like a little routine that I do, a little ritual that I do. What could we do with plants and things like that? And like, what do you do for self-protection?
So every day I'd have a shielding practice. So I begin at my altar, or I have two altars now. So sometimes I'll go outside and just go to my land spirits altar. Other times I'll be inside where I have representations of my land. And it's right over there if anyone's on camera watching us. And I will just ground, do some breathing. I always start with square breathing. So 5 breaths in, hold, 5 breaths out, hold for
Mhm.
5 each time. And then I use sacred sound. So I'll use my frame drum or my singing bowl to sort of cleanse the space. So I'm not
Yeah.
doing it as a full ritual where I'm walking around. For those familiar with witchcraft rituals, there's a lot of circling. I don't move so much, but I just let the sound cleanse the space, clear me of anything that's lingering from yesterday as well. So I go around with my fingers like scissors and just kind of remove
Oh,
any energy cords like an aura brushing. You can also I like to do it a little like this sometimes. It really depends on the day because sometimes it just feels cobwebbier than other days.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then I try to move a little. So I'll try to literally get down on the ground and like just see where my body needs to move. They're doing more and
Mhm.
more studies that a lot of the dysregulation human adults have is because we don't lay down enough. We don't stretch enough. And not
Yeah.
just in the rigid way of stretching, but think about a little kid. When they're overwhelmed, what do? They flop. They just let
Oh, yeah.
themselves flop. So that sort of thing. I try to give myself time to be a silly goose on the ground. And then some days I'm really tight, so I'll put on music and move. And then that clears the energy. All this is just to clear what's old and bring a clean slate. Then I raise protection. So you mentioned your grounding chakra.
Mm.
Work with the Kundalini as well in this quite often because for those unfamiliar, we have 7 chakras. They start at our root chakra, which is our grounding chakra, and it's located at the base of our spine. And then we have our sacral, which is in our pelvic region, our solar plexus right about the belly button, our heart, throat, third eye on the forehead, and then on the very top is our crown. And so this comes from Vedic beliefs, from Hindu beliefs, But it's also something that we see in ancient Greece, something that we see in Celtic cultures. There's this understanding that energy needs to be aligned. We talk about it all the time. I need to feel aligned. I don't feel in
Yes.
alignment. What
Yes.
does that mean? It means your chakras are going like this. You want them to go
Mm.
like this.
Ah,
So
yes.
I stand. So keep in mind, this is after I've loosed it all up and I'm totally clear. The space is clean. I also often light incense. Depends if my cat's with me because I don't want to make him too smoky in the room, but I will like to light incense when I can, a candle, and just bring in all the elements that way because incense is fire, earth, and air. I always
Yes.
have a little vial of water on my altar, so water is represented. And the motion is also, sometimes people talk about motion as air or water. So you're invoking the elements throughout this whole thing, even though, the purpose, it doesn't feel that hard to invoke the elements, it's just there. And then I raise the energy up. So I focus first that grounding chakra, thinking of the root. Root chakra is our foundation. So it's also where,
Mhm.
shadow work sometimes needs to happen from
Yes.
ancestors and the generational cycles that we might be a big part of breaking. I feel like
Mhm.
anyone listening to this podcast is probably a cycle breaker like myself.
Yep.
so so you start there and you kind of move it up through that, and once you feel yourself really grounded, I start to imagine a light coming up from the earth. And
Mhm.
I think I forgot to mention this part too. The first thing I do is I plant my feet on the ground and I imagine them rooted. And I actually send roots down to the earth through my feet. And I'll feel it working. This is a visualization exercise, but I'll feel it working because the bottom, if this was my foot, right in the ball of it in the middle, I think that's what it's called, it's starts to feel warm and tingly.
Mm.
So I'll feel that, and then I'll start moving up the chakras, and I imagine the roots connecting me, sending light up from the earth into those roots through my feet. And then that comes out as a shield, slowly rising up around my body
Yeah.
while my chakras are healing. So it's a bubble,
Yeah.
it's an egg that forms over me. And then I think about that light cleansing me, clearing anything negative that's still left behind, but also enveloping me. So think of it almost like a UV ray where it's going to keep you clean all day and charge you up. It keeps your energy insulated. But then I think about my intention. Once this light is around me as an egg, it's this glowing visualization of the egg glowing with light from the earth. For me, it's often like a greenish translucence. Then I think, okay, do I need my energy open today for people to find me? Am I going to be doing a call like this with you where I need to, of course, I don't want to be a closed brick wall. Or am I going to be going out in public to a place that's, maybe I'm going to the DMV or something? I'm going to actually put a
Yeah.
bit of a brick wall up today.
Oh,
So I,
yeah.
I
Think easily.
intentionally, yep,
Yeah.
you got to shift it up some days. So,
Yeah.
and that's it. It sounded long the way I explained it, but really it's quite a quick
No, it was
five
brilliant. It
minutes.
was brilliant. Like I do that. I do, and it only takes me a minute or two to do some of those steps. You don't have to like sit here for a half hour grounding yourself. And I always use the example like before I go to Walmart because that place makes me crazy, but I
Oh
like to
my
shop
gosh,
in
yes.
there. And I feel like I need to ground myself really good before I walk in there. I just want to be invisible when I go in there.
Yes. Yep.
Trippy. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you're the kind of person, I was before, I do my shielding now, but if you're the kind of person where strangers unload their life story on you, yeah,
Yeah.
you
Oh
got
God.
you
Yeah.
should be shielding. Yeah, because that's what'll
Oh,
fix it.
I I'm like a magnet for those people. I'm a magnet. And you know what gets me to like I run into so many people that like want to purge, because I'm an empath and people just automatically want to purge, which is fine most of the time, but they never stop to ask you how you are. Do you ever notice that? You
Yeah,
don't even get like, how are you doing? It doesn't exist in their
yeah.
vocabulary. So grounding is perfect for that kind of thing because it does make you a little invisible because you don't want to come off like snobby or disrespectful, but you just want to protect yourself. And I love that whole ritual there.
And I'll say too, this kind of goes back to Heidi's question about frequency. When you're
Yeah.
shielded, when you're guided and grounded like that, because you're not just there was a sneaky thing that happens in that ritual too. You've connected to the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just for that minute, but for the day, for the week, for the year. The more you do this, the more it lasts as well. It's just the connection's there when you reach for it. So the power of that is that you're bringing your allies with you on your journey. The land is going to be with you. So it raises your frequency. You're in a different
Mm.
frequency than
Oh, I
the
love that.
energy vampire
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
unload on you at the grocery store. So they won't find you.
Had to say hello to Ashraf. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, Heidi mentioned too that she forgot to ground herself when she woke up and she felt she did what you walk through, and then she said she had never felt her feet warm before. And I guess she did that, right, Heidi? Felt the bottoms of your feet warm and cozy. I'm gonna add that to my grounding routine for sure. I love that. I love that. I want to talk about people that live in cities. Um, because I lived in the cities a lot of my life too. I've been in Pennsylvania for like 38 years. So, but even when I travel there, visit there, it's a very hard feeling to describe. There's virtually no nature, unless you walk in a building that has a few plants and trees and things, which some of them do, but virtually there's nothing for people to ground to unless they go to Central Park, like in Manhattan, or a local park. So, and you talk about that in your book that the egregore in cities is dominated by human actions and emotions. So true. All the good and the bad things we go through as a collective are exacerbated by cities. Lots of people living in close proximity lead to heightened, more perceptible collective change. So, what advice do you have for folks that want to connect to nature and want to connect to doing more grounding but can't because they just feel so trapped by their environment? Like, what do you do, Elyse? What do you have for them?
Well, I have something. I don't know if you can send links to people or put them in show notes but
Yeah, you
I will
could
put this.
put it right in the chat. Yep.
Oh yeah, check it out. I'll do
Yeah,
this
you could.
now. So this is a
Yeah.
ritual that I share with people who live in cities. I actually have to say, you will find that if you live in a city and you begin this work, you're going to have a much more powerful experience with land spirits in open places. So you're
Mm,
basically learning on hard mode. So you're going to have bigger spiritual muscles for land spirits work. So don't give up. It might feel a little harder in the beginning, but you are going to have so much gratitude for what you fought through up leading up to that. It
mm.
looks like I can't join. It's making me connect YouTube and it's having an error.
Is it
So
just a
I'll put it.
YouTube link? Is it just a YouTube link, or is it a video you want to share?
No, it's just a link on my website to a ritual
Oh,
that
all
they can
right.
download. It's a
Let me
download.
do this. Let me do this because I was going to show folks your website anyway. Let me add it. Share screen.
Well, I
Okay.
think this
So
ritual, yeah, I don't think it's on they have to it's a PDF they'll have to download.
where would they get it
So,
though? Like where on here would they get it?
well, it's not a drop down. They have to go to it's a hidden link because I only offer it to people in workshops usually, but I wanted to offer it here for your
Oh.
listeners. So, if there's a show
Would
notes description or something like that, I put it in the studio chat for you to see, but
Okay,
um
you know what I'll do? I'll put that in the description of the video, like on YouTube, and some of the. Is that okay to do that? Or you?
yeah.
How
Oh,
about if people?
absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I'll do that for folks, and then of course you can email me, and I will give you the link as well. And you can just reach me at Carol Ann at etherealencountersunveiled.com. So it's pretty straightforward. But I will make sure I put that in the YouTube. But anyway, your website is beautiful.
Thank you.
Usually I do this last, but we could totally do this now. So you've got services on here. You do tarot card readings and you do a one-on-one mentorship, and then you've got this library. Is that like the Akashic library, or is that something different?
No, it's a
I don't
free
remember.
space, for people to join.
Oh,
Numina
wonderful.
yeah. And actually, I think I'm going to rename it back to what it used to be, which is Seekers of the Sacred Wild, because nobody can spell numina. So I'm going to go back to
Yeah.
what it was. But
And what will
yeah, I
they
have.
get here?
Well, this is just my free space. What I really offer is my signature programs and my retreats to Greece. So this space is a space where I go live once a week and I have rituals in there. So if they sign up at Urban Land Spirit Connection at the link I'll give you, they'll get
Okay,
access to
wonderful.
that. And then I have some self-paced courses like this. But my biggest thing is my retreats in Greece.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
the only native Greek priestess taking people to Greece, believe it or
Oh,
not.
wonderful. Yeah, it's something you don't often hear about. Wonderful. So you've got a lot of offerings on here. Oh, girl, I'm going to have to go join a lot of that stuff you got going on there.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
really, my work is to build community and to have these
Yeah.
conversations with people. So I really mean it when I say, let's have a call. Set up a call. I have a free set up a call button on like every page on my website, because if somebody
Oh,
wants to work with me, it's not just it's never transactional. My work is all about teaching reciprocity.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm the
yeah.
same way with students, with people who come on pilgrimage to Greece with me, with people who come to a workshop, with people, my tarot readings are not. I used to do some recorded ones and I stopped because I want to connect. I want to have reciprocity. So I do them on Zoom now as astral tarot readings. So actually we go in to your astral waypoint and you get to connect to your higher self in this reading. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah, I just am so blessed to have been given what I've been given to share. And I identify as a priestess. And it took me years to feel okay with using that word. But I own it now, because to be a priestess is to be in service to whatever it is. So
Mm.
as an earth priestess, I'm in service to this planet. I'm in service to this land. And what it really wants from me is to just help people connect and help people. If all I achieve, if I do an event and the only thing I achieve is one person in the audience stops using Roundup on their weeds on their sidewalk, that's a
Oh
win.
gosh,
you
yeah.
know so it all starts small, and it's this act of service, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it, to have been chosen to do this
And
work.
that's such a I just put the, link in I was able to put that link, folks. You'll see it under a few different because where we're streaming, for some reason, it streams, for every channel, like, it's ridiculous, but they'll be able to see that. What you said is absolutely genuine and beautiful, Elyse, because I'm not throwing shade on anybody, but because I completely understand it. But a lot of folks have courses and they just want to, like, and I get it. I'm not throwing shade, but they focus just on the sales. They got to get their courses sold. And hey, it's a lot of work. Absolutely no shade there. But when you're the first person that said you're of service to people, that is so beautifully genuine. And you can tell it's just such a God-given attribute, Elise. It's
Thank
really,
you.
yeah, it's really wonderful. Really wonderful. Oh, let me see where my questions are. Okay, so um let's see. So much in your book. You have a lot of exercises in there that I absolutely love to do. What can folks like gain? What do you want folks to gain from reading your book? Like, what's the ultimate thing that you said, okay, I'm writing this book and this is what I want to do for people? Like, what would that be?
In a word, oneness.
Mm,
Because I really want to heal in people. I don't identify as a healer often because I don't do Reiki or
yeah.
sound baths or anything that is a more direct healing art, but I teach things that allow people to co-create their healing. Maybe with
Mm,
me, maybe with a container, maybe with a sacred site, but I give you the tools to heal yourself. That's how I see what I do. And the biggest tool I can give anybody to heal yourself is to recognize that there is nothing wrong with you. Mr.
mm,
Rogers meant it when he said that you are special just the way you are. You are meant to be here. And we can say that to each other all the time, and mean it. But I believe that until we recognize how much we need to mean it when we say that about us as part of Earth, We are here. We are meant to be here. We're from this planet, as our bodies are from Earth. They're all carbon, they're water, just like everything else here. We're meant to be here. And so you matter. You are special just the way you are. You are loved. I have perfect love for you because you are who you are on this planet. You don't have to change. You don't have to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
But what the land promises you is that. And so from that base, we can rebuild that
Wow, that's
foundation that
beautiful.
you belong here.
Yeah. And it's so prevalent right now because like I feel bad for the younger generations, Gen X and I think it's called Alpha, the one under that. I don't know. I get lost in all
Time
the
flies.
labels.
Yeah.
Crazy. But I don't want to use the word because I don't want to flag us. Let's put it this way. At the rate they choose to walk off the planet, if you know what I'm saying, it's tragic. It's truly tragic. The depression, the anxiety, all the things that they're experiencing due to a lot of it, social media expectations and bullying. I mean, you name it, overload of information. So I think a book like this, even for the younger generation, would be brilliant to teach them that, right?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I really was worked with my publisher. I love Llewellyn for this. They didn't
Yeah.
force me to put this under, like, if you look at the category they put me in, it's just nature
Nice.
spirituality. Because
Nice.
I don't want people to think, "Oh, I'm not a witch. Can't read that. Oh,
Exactly.
my evangelical Christian grandmother-in-law loved this book."
Oh, nice.
So I feel like that's the best endorsement from, the reality that you can be anyone,
Absolutely.
because we all are meant, we're
Different.
all human. So we're all part
Yeah.
of this earth.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's good. Do you promote this to the younger generation as well? Like
Yeah.
I'm sure Llewellyn does too. They must do that for you.
I've had a couple of students in their early 20s over the years.
Nice.
And this year in particular, I would say it was like maybe 30% of my student body in my different classes, which is the highest it's ever been. So I don't know,
Wow.
since the book only came out in November, I don't know if I can credit it fully for that, but I've also, I try to be as many places as I can. I'm on Instagram. I was on TikTok. I had to get off TikTok. That was hard. That was a really
Yeah,
hard place to be.
TikTok's
But
nightmare. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I do Instagram, I do Threads, I do Facebook, and I think podcasting really helps every generation find you. I love podcasting because it's the most authentic form of expression. It's unedited. It's just so raw and real.
It is.
Um, and I think young people are sort of liking that sometimes. It depends though. There's a book that's non-spiritual, technically. I found it very spiritual to read, but it's totally secular, called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And he's the
Mm.
social psychologist who's been following kids since 94,
Yeah.
babies born in
Yeah.
94, until today. And he just wrote his newest book called The Anxious Generation about kids born post 2002.
Yeah.
And it's extremely eye-opening and illuminating. And I really recommend it for anybody, because even if you don't have kids in your life, it's super important to understand why the young generation is
Absolutely. Like I have a granddaughter.
traumatized.
Yeah, it's tragic. I have a granddaughter who's 8 and I think of her future and what it would what it's going to be like. And thank God her parents are brilliant and they're doing everything the best way that they can. She doesn't have access to any computers or phones or anything like which, in a lot of countries, I think it's Australia made it 16 now, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great. You got to protect the
And
kids, like for God's
yeah,
sake.
Europe's doing a lot as well. They're getting
Good.
better at it anyway. But yeah, we have to catch up in the United States for
Yeah,
sure.
we do. We do. You mentioned in your book, and I thought this kind of resonated with me about a coffee tea ritual thing. So you start your day with the land spirits and a cup of coffee because coffee's a big part of my morning, and I love being able to connect it to something. So like this morning when I was drinking my coffee, I I noticed my plants right away, and I kind of tried to connect with them. So even like while I'm sipping my coffee, I was watering them and trying to like, what, tell us about that in your book, what you talk about.
This is the first step. I promise everyone can do it. If you want to reach out to the land, this is it. So if you don't have coffee in the morning, you can have a cup of tea. But the point is to have a quiet moment of shared connection with the land. So I
Mm,
pour a cup for myself, and then I bring a glass of water out for the land,
mm.
and I go outside. I take it outside. If it's cold, if it's rainy, if it's doesn't matter, do it. You can do it. I promise. Wear the right clothes. I think it's a Swedish expression to say there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. So
Yeah,
just bundle up
that's
as needed. This
so
doesn't
good.
have to last long. Yeah, it's true too,
Good.
right? So 5 minutes is all you need for this. And if you're like
Mhm.
Elyse, I can't go outside in the morning. No way. You kidding me? I'm exhausted. I only have 10 minutes before work. Okay, do it at night. Do it after you get home and
Yeah.
you're settling in for the evening. But do this every day. I really think this is something everyone needs to be doing every single day is spend 5 minutes outside and just look around. Do some grounding, picture those roots going down, picture that light coming up around you,
Mhm.
and catch the land up on your day. What happened for you if you're doing this in the evening? What is going to happen for you if you're doing it in the morning? Tell them about your life because the land spirits already know you. They already know you. They see you come and go. They feel you in your house. They're part of your house. They're under your land. So they
Mm,
want you to be a part of their life as well. They're kind of waiting for you to reach back out and connect to them. So when
mm.
you simply begin with that, like, good morning, land. Oh, I did not sleep well last night, and you just enjoy your coffee. And then time for you to extend the same to them. How have you been? It's been a drought. We haven't had a lot of rain lately. Are you guys doing okay? Does anyone need water anywhere? And just ask. And if you live in an apartment, like I lived in Baltimore it's Baltimore, it's a pretty non-green city, and I was in a second story balcony, but that's where I went. I went outside on my little second story balcony. So I wasn't able to actually do much for the land, but I was able to look around, and quite often they would guide me to some litter that I could pick up or
Mm.
a branch that is falling that I could maybe help remove so it's not going to cause more destruction when it falls. We had one tree in our little complex. So you don't have to have a lot of land for the land to guide you. And then when you're
Yeah.
ready, pour out the water. That's your offering to the land saying, "Hey, good morning. I brought you a glass as well."
Oh,
And then
nice.
that's it. So easy.
You know, it is, and it's funny because, like, I walk my dog several times a day, and I always try to touch trees. Does that help even if you do it for a few seconds? Is that, like, a
Oh,
good way
so
to
much.
ground?
It's such a good way to ground. That is such a good way to ground. There's a pose I like to do where I'll sit against a tree and I'll put my palms back, not like as creepy looking as I do here, but comfortably back against the trunk, and I'll put my feet flat. So you don't really look that weird. You're just sitting with your palms
Like
down,
leaning, yeah.
but your whole body, your kundalini is against the tree. Your
Mm,
palms, which in witchcraft we're always taught these are our energy centers. This is where we can
yeah.
draw energy up. And your feet, same thing. They draw energy up and connect you. They're all touching the earth and ground, the tree and the earth beneath you.
Oh, I
So
love
you
that.
can get a lot out
Yeah,
of that.
you're
And you
really
don't even
getting
have
in there.
to, yeah, you don't have to say anything or do anything. You just sit and enjoy it.
How do I get over my bugophobia? Because I'm always thinking if I'm, like, I'm always making sure there's no, like, red ants or bugs, and how do I get over that?
Oh, it's so funny. So I have a class. It's a 12-week sort of intensive. I don't know. It's not that intense. I don't have like graded assignments or anything, but it's a 12-week sort of deep work with the land called the Path of the Sacred Wild. And I teach this every summer. And inevitably, that is the biggest struggle. So it's part
It
of this
is.
course to do that. So the first thing I have students do is grapple with that. And it's a little bit of exposure therapy.
Oh,
So
okay.
I recommend going outside and put dirt on your face. Literally go to the dirt and just
That's
anoint
okay.
yourself with dirt and
Yep,
take
that's good.
take a minute and hold that, really think about what that dirt is. Where's it come from? You know, and start to find I don't know, I kind of romanticize worms because they can take rubbish and
Yeah,
just by passing through it, just by
yeah,
being themselves, they alchemize it into
yeah,
life.
yeah, they do.
So it starts with the little question of How did dirt get here? Well, those bugs enabled that. What does dirt do? It feeds us, you know? So we start to think of it differently. We kind of reprogram our brain. So it starts with the soil. And then the bugs start to be messengers. Like we had some ladybugs hatch. Now I know most people like ladybugs, but I think most people would have also been like, that's too many ladybugs. There were like 600 in our porch.
Oh, wow.
And my husband was like, I'm going inside. And I was like, they all hatched literally like within a half hour. We were sitting outside over the summer. And
No,
I
I heard
sat
they're
there.
very good. They're good for crops too because they eat like the other critters that are bad. So ladybugs are great. Yeah.
They're a winner. But it was amazing to like have the presence to not be freaked out by them at all. You know, they're flying and I just stayed calm and they landed on me and I was like, wow, this is the gift. And I've been able to do that with a few other bugs over the years, cicadas, spiders.
Oh,
Um,
spiders. You said the S word. So what do we do about spiders? Because that's a no-no for me. That's a no-no.
they're extremely good luck. Spiders
Oh,
are
shit.
extremely good luck. So yeah, it's
Ah,
they're very good luck, and they eat mosquitoes. We love them for
I know,
that.
but
We
they
love them for
bite.
that.
They bite humans. I don't like that.
So, but think of it this way. That spider bite is going to itch you for a bit, and that's that.
Yeah,
They're not
that's
hurting
true.
us.
That's true. And you know, Heidi said facing your fears is so empowering. She's been facing bug fear for years. And it's true, it is
It's a
empowering, but
lifelong work. Yeah.
it is. But you know what else disturbs me? And this was the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about. What they're doing to the planet in and not so much what humans are doing, because like you said, I fully believe that the earth heals itself. The earth has a great way to renew itself. Um, it's all of the chemtrails, the toxic, like you said, not using chemicals in the ground, which I've been guilty of in the past. I'm never doing it again, but trying to get rid of weeds and stuff. But what they're doing intentionally, trying to block out the sun, all the things we're hearing about, and especially the chemtrails, Elyse, because you can walk out any city, main street, any city in the world, and see chemtrails, you know, and you've got strontium, aluminum, barium, all sorts of toxic chemicals. So we're over here busting butt to take care of the globe and recycle and do all these things while they're doing this above us. So how do you rationalize that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I will never be the like spiritual bypassing teacher who's like, "Oh," because it's not at the end of the day, there are only 3 companies creating more than 80% of global pollution.
Jeez.
That's insane. So yeah, what the heck does it matter if I rinse out my yogurt tub and recycle it? It's not going to get recycled anyway. It's going to get bid on by China and then sit in the barge and then
Absolutely.
become
And so
part of the trash pile, right?
you nailed it. What company? Some I know one of them's got to be Monsanto. Who?
Well, so here's the bigger thing. It's conglomerates. So Unilever, for example, if you look up how many companies they own,
Oh,
it's
right. It's an
everything you can
umbrella
think of.
thing.
Yeah. But if you go up the chain, there's actually 3. And it's Unilever, I think GE or LG, one of
Oh,
those. And then
oh,
and then there's another one that we know the name, like you'll recognize. I just can't remember who it is because maybe
yeah.
it's Coca-Cola. Straight, it might be Coca-Cola.
I believe
These are
that.
definitely top 8, if not top 3, though. So yeah, it's so what we can do instead, and this is that slowing down of intentionality again, is we have to look at where we do have power.
Yeah, which
And
is where. Mm,
anything we have, we need to make use of, and anything we don't have, we need to find where to find the power in. So I rinse out every yogurt tub religiously, even though it's probably never going to get recycled. I know it's one thing I can do that maybe will enable recycling someday, right? So it's very frustrating, but I still do all the things I can do. I still vote because at the end of the day, if we're not voting for candidates that have the earth at its
absolutely.
forefront, we're screwed as a nation, as a
We
world.
are.
Because in America, your vote is for the rest of the world. Every vote you place here is for the health of the poorest in India, of the hungriest in Mozambique. You know, it's very important that we vote ethically in this country. Do the votes get counted? We don't know. But at least we can drive to that ballot box and do our best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it gets crazy once our part's done. We can't control it, but we can control
No.
the first part.
Right.
So then,
That's a great point.
and then we release it. So it's the same with, like, if you want to be an artist or a writer, you have to submit after again and again and again, and you get rejection after rejection after rejection. And if you're going to be a successful creative, you can't view those rejections as the metric. The real metric is how many submissions did you do? So it doesn't matter how many yogurt tins get recycled. It matters how many I tried for them to be recycled. Or I
Mm.
think of the starfish story. There's a couple walking on the beach and the starfish have washed up at low tide. And one person starts throwing the starfish in so they can go back to the sea. And he says, there's thousands. I think it's like a husband and wife or something. She's throwing the starfish and he says, what are you doing? There's thousands of starfish out here. You can't save them
Yeah.
all. And she says, no, but I can save that one. And I can save that one. And I can save
Exactly.
that one.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the internet has done to us, is it makes us think that we can't make the big difference, so we can't make any difference. But no one has ever been able to make the big difference on their own. It's always been the little difference that has made the big
Absolutely.
difference.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah, because like even, if you're out and you want to throw a piece of litter on the ground, like if I have a little thing and I like my first instinct would be to drop it, I go, "Oh shit, let me not do that." It's the intention, I think. It's setting your intention spreads the energy and the frequency out into the ether and into the universe, right?
Exactly. And then it stacks. It really will stack.
Yeah.
And other
Yeah.
people, next time you're with someone and you don't litter and maybe they go to and you're like, "Oh no, I'll hold it for you till we get the next trash
Yeah.
can." They're going to remember that. They're going to think a little bit harder
Absolutely.
about littering next time. So we make a huge
Yeah.
difference in that butterfly effect, in that chain, that ripple
Yes.
that happens.
Yeah. I believe it ripples out too, Heidi. It definitely does. Um, so your courses that you teach, are they for beginners? Like somebody maybe all right, so let's go into the witchy thing. Like say somebody is like, I'm all in, I want to start learning. What's the first thing they should do? Because I think people feel so overwhelmed with information and they're reading different things and trying different Facebook groups and they can't find their people. So like
Yeah.
if somebody's interested and really wants to connect to witchcraft, what should they do, Elyse? Let's start there.
The biggest thing is you have to find other real people that are doing this too. And so I always recommend finding public rituals or festivals that you can go to first. So there's no commitment to those other people there, but there are other people there. Because a Facebook group, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, they're all echo chambers. The
Yeah.
algorithm is designed to show you what will make you angriest, not what will bring you joy,
Yes.
what will make you
Exactly.
angriest. So, and that's my husband's in AI software. Like, it is literally designed to do that. So you will never
Absolutely.
find your people there long term. You can find them short term. That's the only reason I have social media, is to find the right people and then connect with them in real life, whether that's a Zoom call, but something that's non-negotiably real human interaction. Um, so I really think that's important. You have got to meet other real humans. And honestly, a lot of who we think we're talking to the internet is bots. Like, it's the numbers
Oh,
are staggering for how
yeah.
many
Or
people on the internet
perverts
aren't real.
or guys, with nefarious agendas. So, but how do we weed out? Because, we want to make sure we reach only the light and people of the light and not of the dark. So, is that just like an intuition thing? So, you go meet people, you maybe go to the library. Who knows? Maybe they have something going on there. I don't know. There's always something going on at the library. So, you want to make sure that these people are of the light. So is that like an intuition thing that you do or
So here's something else about witchcraft that drew me right away is there is really no way to do witchcraft there's no way to do life, actually, honestly,
right?
that isn't balance. Like, good and evil as concepts were invented structures. What they really represent are extreme ends. And the better way to think of them are, if you call it good and evil, black and white, yes and no, those extremes are not where we want to exist. Think about our planet. We don't want to live at the North Pole or the South Pole. We want to
Exactly.
live
God, so well
temperately.
said. You want to be like right in the middle there, right?
So a good teacher is going to acknowledge that life is filled with light and dark. It's filled with both. We can't reject the dark and focus only on the light, and we can't reject the light and focus only on the dark. What we have is the power to know the difference and to learn where we stand as practitioners. So I'm always striving for balance. I
Yeah.
think even the evilest of persons has a little good somewhere, some way they chose
Mhm,
not
mhm.
to hurt an animal or something. Like they're not fully evil. And it's the same for the goodest person. I'm sure they didn't tip a waiter correctly at one point in their lives. Like there must be something. Like there's never anyone who's at those extremes. So neither are we. And so that's a big forgiveness on ourselves. It allows us to just accept reality, that balance is reality. But it also reminds us that balance is the goal. Nature has lots of death. Every nature documentary promises you death, but it also promises you life. And so the goddesses that witchcraft works with are goddesses of creation and destruction.
Exactly.
They teach both. So in my work, I have 2 container courses that I run. I run the Red Thread in January through March, and then I run so that starts in January, and Early Bird is still up right now. And then I run the Path of the Sacred Wild, which starts in June and runs for 12 weeks
Okay.
till the spring or the autumn equinox. And both of these courses are beginner friendly. Anyone who's new but knows, not like they just woke out of the womb, but like they've read some stuff and they're ready to do it now.
Jump
They need
in.
they know they
Yeah.
need guidance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So beginner in that sense always is welcome. But I also have a lot of people who come to me who are more advanced because my approach is so different. So you can be advanced in one thing. Like I recently had a student who runs a crystal store, and she's run a crystal store for 23 years, and she knows crystals. But she's never thought of connecting to land in that. So
Yes.
she's working with me to up her game in,
Oh,
in another
wonderful.
area.
And
So
and
it's
those courses will help people do that, connect with the land.
yes.
So they can either be a novice or advanced in a particular area.
Yeah. And I find a lot of
Cool.
people I even have a friend who she identifies as a water priestess.
Mm,
But in our conversations, we've gotten to know each other the past few years. And in our conversations, we've realized we're really doing the same thing, because I can't talk about land without talking about water. Rivers and oceans form our land, not the other way around. So it's all one. So she studied with me last year because she wanted to understand my side. And I studied with her the year before to understand her side. So there's a lot of this. And what I call my courses are containers, because they're not just the length of you join for class, you log off, see you next week. There
mm.
is so much community support. I have a student facilitator who runs an integration call each week outside of class, kind of like study hall, but it's also an emotional space to debrief and ground and connect, because in the classes we do a lot of deep work. We do meditations, and in the Red Thread I actually guide people into the astral plane every week to meet different
Oh,
goddesses.
what's that called? The
The Red
course?
Thread.
Oh my God,
Red
that's
Thread.
so intriguing.
And
I'm
it's a
gonna have to go
powerful course. And I think what I love about the container element is you're held it between the integration calls, between the classes. You have lifelong access to your recordings as well. So you can always go back and do meditations again. And then you have our chat. So I have a community space I set up for us in WhatsApp where we're connecting. And it's a group chat basically where we can connect all day, every
Oh
day.
goodness, I wanna
So
do
it's
that course so
powerful.
bad. That sounds fabulous. Oh
And
my
it's
gosh, Elise.
please come. Please come.
Oh,
You would
I
love it.
am.
We already have 8. I had 2 more signed up yesterday. We have 8 people signed up right now.
When I get off this call with you, do I just go to your website and sign up there? Okay.
Yep, ElyseWelles.com/red thread. And it's in signature programs there at
All
the
right.
top.
Brilliant. So what do you said before that we have a few minutes left. You said before that you got a download as well of other books and projects that you're working on. Could you give us a little overview of that?
Yes. Okay. I can't give you any titles or anything because I don't think I don't know what's illegal. I don't know, but they'll be with Llewellyn
No,
and
never give a title away because you don't want
yeah.
somebody stealing it.
Oh, that's true too. I never even think of that. But so I'm working on the next one, which is magic focused. So again,
Mm,
not from a witch only perspective, but how do you use? I use that word hesitantly because it's relational. It's not
right.
utilizing in a transactional way, but how can you work with land as a tool
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
magic? And then what types of magic can be done with the land. So in Sacred Wild, I have spells in there. These deepen that a little bit more, and they show you. Really, I'm excited about this next book because it just deepens what you can do. Because there's something I didn't get to tap into in Sacred Wild just because of space and focus.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I really want this next one to talk more about the healing in the deeper
Oh,
way that it does. So a lot of spells for healing, physical healing, emotional healing, and also spiritual healing. And then I also have some work I'm doing in there on like long-term trauma, like how to work with the land for that. So I'm sort of teasing it in that book. And then if people like it, I might do more with it because that's what comes into my classes a lot is people are very scared of shadow work. Like shadow work sounds really
yes,
scary because it's asking you to look at the parts of yourself you're afraid
absolutely.
to look at. It's
The
scary.
trauma. Yeah.
But the reason I think it's so hard for people is because they're trying to do it alone. And if you do this with other sisters, it's actually so joyful. Like, have you ever had a thing that you're like, oh man, if anyone knew that about me, and then you find someone and they confess the exact same thing and they're joyful about it, and everyone's cool with them doing it, and then you're like, oh, that's a relief. I bet I. And then you
Oh,
could,
yeah.
that's what happens in these things. So
Brilliant.
I always call it joyful shadow work because you're like, and the land imparts joyful shadow work on us a lot. It's always like amazing to me how you can find grief or a sob begin to swell up when you're in a natural place. Like if I go on a hike
Yeah.
alone and I'm in a anxious mood, or
Yeah.
I'll feel it start to dissipate, but then it'll start to center and then it'll actually feel like I need to sob. And once I let that
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
it's like a neutral grounding. So this
Yes,
next book dives a
absolutely.
little more into that and
Oh,
why I
I
think
can't
that
wait for
happens.
that.
And
That's gonna be brilliant. Do you think that your spirit guides connect with you through nature as well? Like, I have a thing with birds, and I'm always looking at birds for signs and symbols, and, we all know the red cardinal means someone who's deceased is visiting you or sending you a message. But do you think your spirit guides are working through nature as well to, like, give you the messages?
I do. And I think sometimes it's the land giving me the message, other times it's my guide. And I have the very lucky experience where my spirit guide has been with me since I was three and a half years old. I
Mm.
remember her in preschool and I thought she was my imaginary friend. And then when I was getting older and she wasn't going away, she started to explain the reality of who she was. And so she's been in my life with very limited exception, all of my life. And so she
Wow.
does sometimes communicate with nature, or especially if I have a question for her and I know, I'm expecting a certain answer, and then she'll send, like an egret to land in the tree right in front of me. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
And
her. But
that's
other
her.
times it's the land. Yeah. Sometimes the
Yeah.
land is like, hey, this egret's, really important. You should watch it. And then I have the opportunity later to like remove trash from around the tree that its nest is at.
Mm. Did you have paranormal experiences as a young child too? Meaning, did you see, like,
So
shadows
many.
or yeah? Could you tell
Oh,
us a little
we
bit about.
if we have time, yes.
Oh,
I
we have
actually
time. We have
Okay, I could
time.
go on and on. I was very blessed. At first, it was terrifying, but now I will say I'm blessed to have lived in a haunted house growing up. And it
Oh,
wasn't haunted by
wow.
people. It was haunted by people, but it wasn't haunted by people that had lived in the house. It was the land they had lived at.
Ah, I've
So
heard of so much of that, yeah.
and I didn't know the particulars until I was in high school. But so our house was built on farmland and our neighbor's house was built on the same farmland. So the plot was subdivided and then the houses were built. So no one else ever
Mhm.
lived in these homes but those neighbors and my family. And this is in Pennsylvania. And when The land had been bought, it was farmed forever. So all we knew was that, this was just rural Pennsylvania. So I couldn't figure out where these ghosts were coming from, but I would wake up in the middle of the night since I was really young, probably the same age, like 3 or 4. I wonder if that's not why she came through, my spirit guide came through so strongly, is to actually
Yeah.
help me with these ghosts.
Dealing with it,
But it
yeah.
Yeah, but it would be in the middle of the night, almost every night, and I would wake up feeling men walking through my room, and I would look and I could see them, and they were these Native Americans, and not just men, but I would feel the men first right away, and then the women would come, and I would see these, like, shadowy shades of Native Americans, and I didn't even know what they were until I saw Pocahontas, like, later, like, when I was a little bit
Yeah.
older, and I was like, "That's what they look like," and I was always telling my
Wow.
parents, I was calling them in, and they couldn't see them, and these spirits would not react to me, so I would literally sometimes this happened for years until I was in college, it would still happen when I'd come home for break. I would get so frustrated with them, I'd go, "Hey, hey," and, like, try and get their attention, they would never acknowledge me. And one
Mm.
day in like 11th grade, I had already begun my witchcraft journey at this point, and I think that's why it worked. I was able to get one of them to turn their head towards me,
Oh,
but
wow.
it could have been coincidence, but it was the only time that ever happened. So anyway, this happened all the time, and my parents were like, "Oh, you're dreaming," the usual. So I just kind of got used to it. And one day in 11th grade or 12th grade, it was maybe 12th grade because I feel like I was closer to graduation. I was at the
Mm.
library and my neighbor just happened to be at the library. And he's in the like Native American collections thing. And I was like, "Hey, Mr. John, like, what are you researching?" And he's like, "I've been seeing for years now these Native American spirits in the house. And
Wow.
I'm tired of it. I need to understand if they're real, if I'm crazy." And so he's doing research. He said, "Did you know that our land was used as a waypoint in the winter and people would winter here in the
Wow.
native days?" He had no
Mind
idea I'd
blown.
been seeing that. It was incredible.
Did you tell
So
him? Of course you did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
told him then, and he was like, I knew it wasn't just me." He also had looking back, I can see why they would have chosen him over, his wife or my friend, his daughter, because they were both very afraid of spirits. He actually loved Native American culture. One of his hobbies was, getting
Ah,
arrowheads, and he kept them in their house on his side of the room on a windowsill because
yeah.
it's so funny. He was an evangelical Christian, but not practicing in the way of like going to
Yeah,
church,
yeah.
but that was his belief. But he really believed in the power of stones. So he felt like he didn't want to put them away. He wanted them in the sun so that they could be part of nature. So interesting. So I think he somewhat
Wow.
summoned them with the comfort that he provided
Absolutely.
for their. It
Yeah.
was just fascinating the
Yeah,
way
and it
he was
could
intuitively doing that.
yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a residual kinda haunting thing where, the land, they just do that because maybe that's why you couldn't get their attention because they weren't really there. It was just like a residual thing left
Yeah.
over historically, but what
That's what I've
after
always
that
thought too.
yeah, kinda sounds that way. W After that, did you ever see any other entities other than the Indians or no,
No,
it was
not in that
them?
house, but I saw him in other places, but not in that house. But yeah, I wrote another book that came out this past year. I think I might have emailed you about it, I don't know, but I wrote my first paranormal mystery novel with a witch as the main character
Oh,
because
wow.
I just had seen so many ghosts, and I actually had a really scary experience at a friend's house. We were house sitting for my friend's dad when we were in college, and I had this terrifying ghost experience. I was like, "This needs to be a book," so I put it in this book. So I won't
So the
spoil it in
name
case people read it, but
yeah,
terrifying.
for folks that are listening and not watching, it's called what is it called What the Water Remembers?
Yes, what the water
Wow.
remembers.
Now this is a fictional novel?
Yeah, it's all fiction, except it does recount real history of the Johnstown flood. So the ghosts from this book come from the Johnstown flood,
Oh,
which was a
wow.
historical event that before 9/11, it was actually the biggest loss of human life in the United States on a single day ever. It was a massive
Sounds like
flood in
it could be a
Pennsylvania.
it sounds like it could be a good mini series too or something for
Oh, yeah,
TV,
I
right?
have Oh, that's the dream. I actually put 2 references to Mike Flanagan in the book, who did Haunting of Bly Manor, Haunting of Hill House on
Yeah.
Netflix, so
Yeah.
that he might know about it and then make it, because that's what everyone says when they read it. They're like, "I just wanna see it now."
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes the good books do translate into good theater, into good movies and miniseries. Wow. Elise, this has been such an amazing conversation. I'm so enamored with everything that you've written in your book, and the words coming out of your mouth today are so inspirational. I'd love to have you back too. I mean,
I
there's
would
so
be
much more.
honored. This has been
Thank
such
you.
a great conversation.
I loved every minute of it. I will be in touch with you via email because I definitely want to sign up for that. And I want to book you for this year now. I'm in the habit of saying for next year, but we're already in next year. So I
It's
want to get you,
time.
yeah, I want to get you scheduled because the slots go quick because there's so much more we could talk about. So I'll be reaching out to you via email. Okay, dear?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Caroline. This has been an amazing day. This was the highlight of my week already.
Oh, my pleasure, my blessings to you. And I will be in touch soon. I know everybody in the chat. Yes, everybody, thank you so much for participating. And if you have any questions for Elyse, you can always pop them in the description of this video. In the comment section, and we'll make sure she gets them. So, thank you again, Elyse. We'll be in touch soon. Everybody says gratitude. Yes, gratitude. So much gratitude to you, dear friend. I
Oh,
will talk to you
thank
soon.
you.
Thank
Bright
you.
blessings,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Yes, we all loved it too. We're getting a lot of comments. Everybody loved it. Thank you so much, dear. Talk to you soon, hun.
Bye.
So that was absolutely phenomenal. Blown away. It's not often that well, we do have some guests that do send shivers down my spine with everything they say, and Elyse is definitely one of them. This has been such a transformative conversation. I loved everything she said, everything she stands for. You guys have to check out her book. It's like the exercises in it are phenomenal. Like I started highlighting all my favorite exercises to make sure that I do that. So definitely go, live outside the box, connect with nature, do something maybe that you don't normally do. You heard so many tips and tricks, things that resonate with you. So, yeah, go do that. Pick up some litter when you see it, little stuff like we talked about. Um, it's all gratitude and love and light. So, thank you all. Have a blessed weekend coming up, and I will see you guys next week. We have an amazing lineup scheduled for next week. Check out social media. You'll be able to see all about it and hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it when you do. Much love and thanks to United Public Radio. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Love to all of you. See you soon. Bye bye.